Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, this is Ian with Out of This World Reader, and I've got another book chat for you today. This book chat today involves a complicated relationship with an author that I've kind of had the experience to read with for several years now, and that is Ruth Ware. And currently, before I read this book, she was 2 and 2, and I liked The Woman in Cabin 10 and The Turn of the Key, but the last two I read, In a Dark, Dark Wood and One by One, I wasn't a big fan of. So this book was essentially determining whether I would continue on with reading the author or not. So there was a lot at stake here. But thankfully, this book, even though it wasn't my favorite, I still enjoyed it, and I will continue on with reading some of Ruth Ware's future books, and that book is going to be none other than The Death of Miss Westaway. But I'll just give you my brief thoughts on my experience with reading this book, kind of what I liked, what I didn't like. If you haven't heard of this mystery thriller, this is following Harriet, who is in some trouble with a loan shark, and she comes across a letter saying that she is an inheritor of a mysterious Mrs. Westaway. The problem is, though, she has no idea who this woman is and who this family is that's kind of invited her to this estate. But with that loan shark making new demands and kind of forcing her to make a choice, she kind of chooses to go to this estate and take on the inheritance. Taking that chance, she travels to the estate and begins to learn more about this mysterious family and her mother in general. I really liked Hal as a main character. I felt like she had a very good heart really deep down, and that didn't change throughout the story. She was in some tough rut at the beginning, and she still, like, her heart was just pure gold, it seemed to me, just really deep down. Even though her job that she works at the pier is kind of a bit skeptical, I felt like she just had the biggest heart in the world, and from the things that happened to her with the loan shark, it just didn't change very much. And I know at some points her heart was not the best, but I felt like she was in the right mindset for the most part. But Hal's job at this pier that she works at is she does tarot readings, and I've never kind of read about that or heard anything about it. It's always interested me. So the fact that she kind of has this profession and just learning more about these cards and their kind of the background behind each and every card was just very interesting to me, because it was something I've always kind of wanted to check out, but I never did. And this book kind of gave me a little bit of intro into the different cards and how they can play a role and how she spun them for her customers. And it was just used several times throughout the book, not as much kind of towards the end, but in the beginning I really enjoyed that kind of tarot readings and just that whole aspect behind it. I think after reading this I kind of wanted to research them more and kind of just look into them a little bit more, because I don't know what it was, but they just, and then for some reason, after doing that, I saw more on TV, like a show that I'm watching about them. So it's just I want to pick them up and look at them some more. The setting of Trepassen House, the estate that she travels to, that she kind of is become an inheritor of, is very spooky, and I felt like it was the perfect setting for the story. It's got so many different hallways and corridors and doors that no one knows kind of where they lead, so it makes it a very kind of spooky haunted house. And on top of that, it's falling apart, and you got this old creepy ass maid that is just everywhere. It seems she was just popping up out of nowhere, just catching people off guard. So it just made it the perfect setting for the book, I felt. And of course, like many other kind of Ruth Ware books, this house is kind of secluded, and it's surrounded by these yew trees that are just filled with magpies that are kind of just always kind of flying around. It kind of made it a little bit more spooky, and I felt like this would have been perfect to kind of just read around Halloween. For some reason, it was just the time period or the season that this kind of occurred in the book made it just perfect for just fall and just a Halloween kind of vibe. The plot was also something I never experienced with Ruth Ware or just in general with mystery and thriller, and that was kind of just like family kind of aspects and how they kind of interacted with each other. Like they're all very different, as you'll kind of learn in the story. Like each of the different brothers, they are essentially polar opposites of each other, and they are always arguing and clashing, and it just made it so interesting to just kind of read, and kind of kept you on the edge of your seat waiting for if they were gonna like crack and just someone was gonna start killing each other. Like it felt like that at times, and it was just awesome to kind of just read that throughout the book. And I'll give my kind of more thoughts on that in a little bit, but I just overall, like, the plot was something I've never experienced before. Even though I wasn't sure who kind of the who did it was, like I had my kind of thoughts. It was constant because of this family clashes and kind of arguments. It was just hard to constantly, or not constantly, just like pick out like a certain character and be like, that's the one. Like in some of the other Ruth Ware's books, especially like in One by One, like I knew from the very beginning who the killer was. But in this one, it was kind of hard to just like actually pinpoint, even though I had my skepticisms and guesses. This is mostly mystery too. I was expecting it to be a little bit more thrilling, I think just based on that cover, and just I was hoping it was going to be more kind of like The Turn of the Key. That was probably my most favorite book of her kind of different works. But this one was mostly mystery, kind of how uncovering the truth behind the trespassing house and just everything else that kind of occurs in the story. Now I'll just cover a couple things that I didn't like about the story. I felt like in the beginning, the first 100 pages or so, it was really slow, and it was kind of hard to, not so much hard to because of that tarot reading, but it was kind of hard to kind of get behind the plot because it was mostly like you didn't even arrive at the house until, like I said, like after 100 pages or so. So it felt like it was very kind of slow in the beginning, but after that it kind of started to pick up. Another thing that I was really disappointed in was that Hal and several other characters left the house several times. I wanted it all to take place at this like creepy house and this haunted house. I was getting like awesome vibes from this like really haunted house. Like it was like it's hard to kind of explain, but I was just getting this perfect setting, and they would leave and it would come back, and then like I would have to build up that momentum and kind of get those vibes back. So if it would have all taken place in the house, I felt like it would have been, like my rating would have been so much better. And lastly, I kind of just wish it was a little bit more thrilling. I expected it to be a little bit more kind of going in, and just with having that kind of haunted house of The Turn of the Key, kind of that feel, that same feel I got with this one when I read the plot and the premise. So I was kind of expecting a little bit more thrilling, so I was a bit disappointed with that, but it wasn't like, it was still, the mystery was like really enjoyable to read, so I think it made up for it in some ways. My overall thoughts on this, I enjoyed this a lot more than those last two that I read from her. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars out of 5, and that was mostly because of just that kind of slow start and just expecting more thriller. But I'd recommend this for anybody who kind of is into mystery, the author, or just a little bit of thrilling and haunted house. I mean, if this sounds like something up your alley, I definitely recommend you pick it up. So I will continue on with reading Ruth Ware. I only have The Lying Game left from her that I haven't read, so if you have an opinion on like your thoughts on that book, or just her favorite, her favorite of yours, let me know in the comments down below, because I want to hear what you kind of think about it, like if you have like a similar complicated relationship or not. But that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts if you've read the book, and if you plan on picking it up anytime soon. I'll make sure to leave some videos that I recommend you check out. If you want to connect with me on social media, I'll make sure to leave those down below. Please consider liking and subscribing so you never miss out on another adventure. And I think I got a message from Ellie today, and she says that adventure is out there. So I'm going to catch you next time. Bye.